What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are doing all the baby lights. This is my client's before. She is naturally around a level 6. This is about a like a 5-month girl. She plays basketball at the college close by, so it's obviously middle of basketball season still, with it being February. So we're not able to always do her hair as regularly as we would love to, with her being a baby lighted blonde, but we're able to make it work. So you see me prepping her hair first with K18. She's got very fine hair naturally, so with fine hair and doing a lot of baby lights, you have to be very gentle. And that's kind of a part of what this video is about. This video is about a couple different things, but one of them is going to be like fully baby lighting on fine hair and like things that I like to do differently with fine hair compared to average or thicker hair densities. We're also going to be talking about how I'm able to kind of give that like soft yet like bright appearance up top. We're going to be talking about like doing something similar to a root shadow, but just formulating it a little differently so that your clients can still feel super blonde up top but also have that soft grow out and don't necessarily have to see like a dark root if they don't want that. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So I am starting off in the mohawk section. Most of my baby lights, I like to do mohawks up top just because then you're able to put your main focus on the area that everyone cares the most about, which is the top. And it's easier to start up here than two because it's easy, at least for this, I feel like I have an easier time moving my mohawk foils out of the way for when I do the sides, versus when I do the sides first and then the mohawk, I feel like the foils are a little bit more in the way. And then again, since this is like the area of most importance, you want to really make sure that like you have all the room to do what you need to do, and not have, again, foils getting in your way. So when I'm doing a mohawk, I'll either start in the back first if I don't want to start up top, or I will start in the top first. So that's what we're doing. And we want a very full coverage blonde. Like we want as little to no dimension as possible. But with doing the baby lights, I actually more so like to do back-to-back weaves on most of my clients with fine hair, especially if we're not doing an intentional shadow root. And the reason for that is it just looks a little softer, and you're able to get that full coverage appearance without it looking harsh. I've done it before where I've done full, like very packed in back-to-back slices with not a lot of leave out, and I just feel like it just doesn't always look very soft. And that's a big thing for me, is to have things look soft and fluid and all the things. Now when we get to the back, just to pack in the more of the coverage and to like eliminate my time foiling, just because in the back where the hair is covering, I do switch over to slices, but for the entire top and sides, besides the money piece area, we're pretty much only weaving. That's mainly just with those with finer hair though, like I said. So if your client has thicker hair, I will either alternate between slices and weaves, or depending on what we're doing, I will just do slices. But when they have finer hair, again, that's just my personal preference. You can definitely achieve this look with doing slices too if you want. Sometimes what I'll do too is I will do back-to-back weaves up top, and then on the sides, especially in the interior part of the sides, if they've got a little thicker hair there, I will switch over to slices there and I'll weave up top. You can do a little bit of everything. But again, like I said, we've got pretty fine hair that we're working with today, so pretty much just all weaves. So I do that all the way until sorry you guys, I like just woke up, so I feel like my voice sounds a little raspy. So I will pretty much do this same pattern all the way until I can't really reach from behind me. And then I'll twist them around, I'll spin them around, and I'll go to the front. and then that's when I start working on the money piece. So the money piece is interesting when you're doing a full head of Babylights, especially when they're not really wanting much of a shadow root. I will have a lot of times my clients will ask me, like, can I still have a money piece? And I always tell them, yes, you definitely still can. However, if you're doing a high impact blonde all around, your money piece may not stand out as much because it doesn't have a lot of dimension and depth in the back to pop with. Are you okay with that? And my client today was like, yeah, it's totally fine. Most of my clients, if they want that high impact blonde all over, they're not willing to sacrifice that depth and dimension just to make their money piece stand out. So that's just a big tip that I have is for your full Babylight clients, if they're like, I just don't feel like my money piece is standing out that much. Well, when you think about it, there's not a lot of dark and dimension in the back for it to pop against. So what I normally do is, like you see me doing here, is I will definitely do back-to-back slices up here up front. For their money piece. That's not a problem at all, and I feel like that still can grow out relatively softly. If we're doing, so we are doing a little bit of a root tap on my client today, but we're doing a different formulation of one, so it's not really going to appear like a root tap. It's more so just going to like soften her root overall. So it's really not going to like help push that money piece forward a little bit more. If you were doing a root tap, you can still, with a full Babylight, you can still make your money piece stand out a little bit more. What you can just do is just not tap as much or not tap at all up on the top money piece area, if depending on what they're going for, see what they prefer. But just make sure you make it realistic to your clients. Like it's pretty unrealistic to but be a little nice with it. But it's not the most realistic expectation to have a full head of Babylights, but also have like the world's most pop-in money piece, because essentially all over is a money piece. And when you're highlighting everything, it's kind of like you're highlighting nothing. So you do want to make sure that, especially again, if they really want to see a bright pop of blonde, that, they've got to add in some dimension in there somewhere. And again, today's client wanted to appear like as solid of a blonde as possible. So that's what we needed. But again, just keep that in mind, depending on what the client needs. All right. And now you see me just working my way back. I'm going back in my traditional highlight pattern. The same thing that I was doing in the back part of the mohawk, I'm doing in the top part of the mohawk. And I'm just meeting my way up to the center. And then now I'm here working on the side. So on the side, I'm going back to the money piece placement for these hairline pieces. For the side part of the money piece, I normally will work my way up to like either, depending on what we're doing, I normally will go back as far as like the middle or top of, like middle-ish of the ear, and make sure that I make my way up for that like top part of the hairline where the top part of the side meets with the money piece. And yeah, I go back in, and as you see, I'm doing like diagonal back slices. How I base this is I just pretty much go off the curvature of her head and her growth pattern. And I just kind of let those sections kind of tell me what needs highlighted. And make sure for this, please make sure you're getting the baby hairs. Depending on what you're doing, sometimes you don't want to highlight the baby hairs because it can look like breakage. However, if you don't highlight the baby hairs when you need to, that can also make it look like breakage. So when my rule of thumb is the more rootier they are, the less you want to worry about the baby hairs. But the less rootier they want to be, the more you want to worry about the baby hairs. So a lot of times I will highlight them, even if I'm doing like a full head of teasy lights, but if they want like a soft root, I'll highlight them, but I will still like root it. But in this situation, again, that bond's going all the way up. So like that's just as much of an important baby light as everything else. In terms of the curvature, going along with the curvature of the head, I've had a few messages of people asking me like, how do you know like how to do that? I've tried doing that and it's hard. And I get it. It is hard. It took me a while to like really get a full foiling pattern down for baby lighting, teasing lighting, what have you. My best way to describe it is to just take like a traditional like highlight section down or traditional baby light section down. And if you can like visualize, it's all visual. I'm a very visual person. So I think once I switched to being all visual, it like really changed the game for me. So I hope that this advice is not going to help everybody, but what I just do is take that section down, kind of like what I just did there, and I let my section kind of tell me like what needs to be done and where it needs to be highlighted. And normally I'm able to tell before I even let the section down. Let's say if I've done like, if I'm going like at a diagonal back and I can tell that the hairline is and the growth pattern is starting to go a little more horizontally, kind of like in these sections up here. Obviously, as you see up here, I'm going a lot more horizontal than I was up front. I'm able to kind of tell myself, okay, that next section is going to have to be more of a horizontal versus a diagonal back. If that's too hard for you though, you guys, truly just, it's pretty much like a Bricklay situation. So do your hairline, do that sidemost part of the hairline, and then just Bricklay. Do like a side, like a diagonal back that's angled towards the front, and then do one that's horizontal, and just switch back and forth between that. That's a great, like, just traditional way of going about it too. And when I break it down, that's pretty much what I'm doing for the most part. Mine might not be a true Bricklay where every other section is going to be like a diagonal back for one and then a horizontal for another. But when, at least for us visual people, if I am too like strategic about my sections, that like stresses me out, and then it takes me a lot longer to foil. So, but again, I'm a visual person. For those that do need like a strategy with it and they need a full-on roadmap, if you will, then just do, again, your diagonal backs to your horizontals, and you'll be perfectly fine. You can get pretty much the same results. Onto my lightener formula. So I am using, I'll go extra blonde. I've been on a solid extra blonde kick, but we gotta remember one thing. This is what I tell anybody that I talk about extra blonde to. It is aggressive if you don't formulate correctly. So again, like I was just saying earlier, my client has very fine hair. She does not need 30 volume on her head with extra blonde. She sure as heck does not need 40 volume on her head with extra volume. So what I do is for Babylights especially, I bump down my developer of what I would normally start out with if I was using extra blonde and cool tone blonde mixed together. Cool tone blonde is a lot more controlled and a little bit of a slower lift. You can definitely still get there, but I only use cool tone blonde on its own with like very fine level 7s and up. Even for my level 6s, they need a little bit of extra blonde with them because of getting just that extra kick to get that residual like yellow and orange out. So if I was using extra blonde and cool tone blonde together, I would have started with either 15 or 20 volume. So for her, I used extra blonde on its own with 10 volume. The thing that I do like about extra blonde is that since it's not blue tinted, it typically will lift to you're more likely to get more of a yellowy lift out of it than like a pale yellow. So I feel like a lot of the times the lifting will stop at the level 9. Okay, so we're here to the back, and here is my tip for saving time in the back. So as you guys did see, I did move to slices just to get the extra coverage, because at this point everything will be covered if this isn't the softest, and we've got more growout back here too. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a slice as wide as the back of the head, and I switched off, and I'm doing the 8x11 pop-up foils by Framar, and I'm holding it horizontally, and what I'm doing is doing my Babylight, and then I'm folding these foils in. You do have to be really careful because since we're doing Babylights, you just want to make sure that you're going high enough, but you're not going too high where you're causing any bleeders. So it is I would leave like a 1/16 of an inch out, like very, very little out at that top area. And then when you see me flipping the foil up and I will use my comb to like get extra grip on that foil before I like fully fold it in. And that helps out a lot too. I do that for, I'd say like that widest most part of the head for about 5 to 6-ish foils. And then what I do here is I go back to the underneath. And then I will do the bottom hairline, and then I pretty much at that point, the foil area is getting pretty narrow anyway, so I'm able to like transition back to just regular foils again for that interior part. And I do that until I meet up with the previous foils that I did. I like to start at that topmost part in the back because that definitely takes a hot minute to lift. And I've learned that if I start out with the underneath, unless if the underneath really needs some work done, if I start out with the underneath in like a touch-up situation like this, and then I do the top last, I feel like my clients are having to sit a little bit longer than I really want them to, because that top area again takes a little bit longer. I think just because there's not a lot of foils laying on top of it. There's not a lot of like heat coming from like the scalp that's getting to it. So that's definitely something that I recommend to do. All right, so here at the bowl, we have her pre-toning in a Fanola No Yellow shampoo. And then what we're going to do is I towel dry her hair really, really, really well. You want it to be still a little damp, but I'd say you want it like 40% dry, like a little bit more dry, especially at the root area, a little bit more dry than it is wet. I'm using the K18 moisture mask, and then I'm splitting her hair up into 2 sections. The nice thing about these bowls is that a lot of times I'm able to get my root taps out of the way without having them sit up all the way. Just because with how they're angled, I can see the back. But anyway, okay, so the root tap formula. We are using my favorite blonde root tap, and it is 9N and 9A. Sometimes I'll use 8A if I feel like if they need a little bit extra toning. But I tone them at a level 9 down here because, and what I do is I just switch the tonality of my blonde, or of my level 9, I should say, sorry. Switch the tonality of your level 9, and since it's got more depth in it, then it kind of gives that shadowed appearance because it's got more of the neutral in it that's got that more brown base. And then the A is ash, obviously, and blues, as we know, is a little bit more darker too and absorbs a little bit more of that light. That if you tap that on at first, it just gives that, again, little shadowed appearance, but it's still a level 9. Look at how so pretty. Everything looks so much softer. For her end formula, I am using all shades EQ today. Again, I've just been changing it up a little bit, but I am using 9T, 10VG, 9P, 9GI, and 9AA is her end formula. And that's like the perfect, like nice, super bright blonde. And yeah, I love it. All right, I hope you guys enjoy. I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.